I'm a king, I belong to God, He gave me everything. And I know the enemy don't like it, but I'm cool with it, that's how we move with it.
The night of February 15th, 2023, I dreamed a dream of me being asleep one night in a dark room. Seemed as if it was a beautiful 5-star hotel suite, and I was in a king-size bed. The curtains covering the big window just above my head were slightly open, so that the moonlight was reflecting off of the glass mirrored doors of the interior of my bedroom suite. It appeared that I had previously struggled to sleep while tossing and turning every which way because the covers were all bundled and they were tossed all around me. As I struggled through, I apparently fell into a very deep sleep, but subconsciously I could hear the voices of 2 little boys having a conversation about their dad. So I cracked my eyes to see. The one little boy was about 6 to 7 years old. He was light-skinned with black curly and super wavy hair, and his eyes were big and bright, though very slanted. He was full of life and rambunctious, just a little ball of energy with 1,000 questions and an excited, hopeful joy about himself. The other boy was about 10 to 12 years of age, and he also was light-skinned with a great head of curly, wavy hair, and was the splitting image of the younger boy. He was slightly chubby, but he wore it very well, and his demeanor was more serious, contemplative, and concerned. They were in the midst of a conversation about their father, and so I was intrigued to listen more closely to them as they talked to each other from the hallway just outside of my bedroom door. The older boy was leaning against my bedroom door from the outside as the younger boy, while smiling and excited, was tugging on his clothes, telling him, "Let's wake him up. He loves to wrestle with us, and then he will let us help him cook a great big breakfast." The older boy was focused on the door, and he said to the little one, "He's been through a lot, and he needs his rest. Let's wait a while longer." The younger boy then runs past the older one and says, "I want him to get up now." He runs past the older boy so that now the older boy is forced to enter into the bedroom after him. The little one runs and jumps onto the bottom of the bed and lays at the feet of me and starts to tickle my feet as he laughs hysterically. The older boy then comes to the head of the bed. He stands over me for a few seconds, looking at me, and then he lays beside me while facing me. Moments later, he then turns to lay flat on his back while gazing up at the bedroom ceiling. He takes a deep breath, and then with a single tear streaming down his face, he says to the younger boy, "Things are changing. Things will not be how they used to be." He just continued to lay there as he watched the little one continue to play with my feet while being totally oblivious to the statement just uttered out. I awoke to realize that I had been in the presence of my 2 sons in the midst of a conversation about me. Obviously, the oldest boy was my eldest, Ezekiel. So, the instant assumption was that the younger boy must have been my youngest son, Harper Antonio. But this was not the case at all. The younger boy was my second son, John Curtis Horn, who did not survive the womb, but was lost in the fall of the year 1994. It seemed as though he and Zeke, my eldest son, had the typical big brother, little brother relationship. They loved each other, and they loved their time with their dad. Apparently, Zeke had entertained these heavenly paranormal visits from his little brother before, and this night was no different. Zeke had oftentimes told me that he saw his little brother. He described him with great detail and always expressed a sense of joy and untold love of their bond that was even beyond this life. This night was all about how Zeke saw things, the past, the present, and even the future. I needed to see the son that was before me, rather than wishing to go back to do things over and perhaps raise him differently. I would love him just as hard. I would groom him just as well, and I would train and correct him just as diligently as I did before, because I know what's in him. In Zeke is the strength of God. His name, Ezekiel, means that God has strengthened him. Though devoid of his younger brother John's presence in his life, he realized that he had to hold on to the real experiences that he has left, because Ezekiel sees the future, and he realizes that another change is coming. I recently reached out to Ezekiel to express how much I love him and always have. I also charged him to always be mindful of his baby brother, Harper Antonio, because Harper needs him and will continue to need him throughout his life. Both Ezekiel and John Curtis were conceived in the youth and strength of my life in my early 20s. They were products of an era where I was a gym rat, a prayer warrior, and a workaholic. Harper is not so, for he is the product of my old age after many hospitalizations, surgeries, and illnesses, and where my knees scream just to bend, let alone if they were to touch even the floor, where work is scarce and limited, as my body and my mind now are also limited. Yet because both Zeke and Harp are my heirs, they both are sons of promise. I believe that God is faithful, and one day in the future, my three sons will meet together finally, and we are going to build a home over there in Zion together. Hand in hand, the Horn Boys will shine in the kingdom of our Father and celebrate throughout eternity in heaven with God. Yes, I still believe that. Lastly, I received some videos from family members of my baby boy Harper playing the drums in church. It stirred up a lot of memories, as I too am a drummer, along with my eldest boy Ezekiel. I responded with the following observations and conclusions to them by stating thus: I've studied Harper in each drum video. He carefully considered his next strike before releasing each hit. That means by nature, he is analytical. So he will be a theory-driven personality. Things will need to make sense to him in order to thrive in any particular thing. Otherwise, it will be put on the back burner as he moves on to the next instrument, the next project, or the next situation. Zeke, however, was different. He only needed to hear it in order to feel it. If he felt it, he was unstoppable at whatever. Playing drums, laying drum tracks, boxing, cutting hair, cooking. He is driven by imagination and practice. The more he imagines himself doing it, the greater he becomes at it. Funny how you can learn so much and see so many valuable lessons from the eyes of a child. Every father, I suppose, would love to be like our Heavenly Father when introducing our sons. Yes, we all want to be able to honestly and sincerely utter the words, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." I will leave many things for my boys, both physically and spiritually, but also genetically, whenever it is that I depart from this earth. None will be more important than wisdom. As the proverbial writer penned in Proverbs 27:11, I too say to my boys, "My sons, be wise and make my heart glad, so that I may give back an answer for him who puts me to shame." Godspeed, my sons. It is well with my soul. And it is.